Hiya Christina, great to meet up with you and begin doing some work on your game. As promised, just a quick recap on the key points that we covered. Start of your session, really we worked on the initial setup. We then progressed on to handle location at impact and weight location at impact. And then towards the end of the session we started to work on realigning the club at the delivery position P6, coming into the golf ball to approach the ball more from the inside. In regards to the setup, the first changes we made were to flare out both feet. As you can see, the sort of top centre and bottom centre comparison here is a nice one for you. We've gone from having quite square toes. Beg your pardon, the computer's having a little bit of a funny one. Try that one again. So we've got quite square toes. Left toe turned out a little bit more than the right. And we've got the upper centre out in front of the lower centre. So we're actually side bending towards the target at setup. Now, ideally for our pattern, what you would want to see is both feet turned out. And I would say for you a minimum of 25 degrees both feet. That's going to reposition the knees and free up the hips. The next change we've made is we've pushed the hips about 2 inches further forward at setup, excuse me, which now has created a relationship where we are side bending to the right ever so slightly. Now that side bend will change throughout the course of your, or throughout the set of your club, if you will. With a wedge, to have the upper centre and the lower centre lined up with one another is okay. Then as you go through your set, you'd want to have the hips pushed a little bit further forward, and you get to a situation where you were side bending away from your target about 13, maybe 14 degrees with a driver, but that's created by pushing the hips forward, not by dropping the upper centre back. So the upper centre should remain in line with the centre of your stance. So you've created side bend the correct way as per the images and the comparisons that we gave you at the start of your session. So feet out, hips forward, and that in turn creates that little bit of a side bend to the right, which is fine. We haven't got anything against someone side bending to the right within the pattern, but that side bend to the right changes to a side bend to the left as you go back, and then into a bigger side bend to the right on the way through, and all the time it's done by those hips moving further forward. So feet out, hips forward creates a much better P1 position that you can see here in the centre comparisons. Big concern then was the way in which he delivered the club to the golf ball. What we see here is a player who dumps the wrist angles very early, pushes up out the ground too soon, left leg straightening very quickly, and the handle is very much back at impact. So what we talked about then was the ability or the need to push into the ground a little bit more during the change of direction. You were touching on the idea of sort of flexing the left knee a little bit more, etc. What we've done here is we've preset our desired impact position. So the changes we'd like to see based on the footage that we see on the top centre, ideally would be we would want to see a little bit more flex in the left knee. We'd want to see the hips more forward, and we want to see the handle more forward. So what we're doing on the top right on the drill, where we hit multiple balls doing this, is we're maxing out what we want to introduce and then trying to maintain that throughout the course of the impact area so that we can become familiar with the opposite feel. So here now we've got weight forward, a little bit of flex in the left knee, handle leading through impact, much better position through impact. Really, really good work on demonstrating that drill. So we need more of what we're seeing there in our swing. And then towards the end of your session, now this is with your little number 3 hybrid. So the fact that we're going to see a little bit more shaft lean with a hybrid than we were with a 6-iron is really positive. So what we're going to see now on the way back, side bend to the right, changing into a side bend to the left. as we start the downswing, we don't push up out of the ground anywhere near as quick, and we just play that back or run that back to P6. So the circumference of the swing is starting to get tighter. You can see there's a little bit more sort of maintenance of the angle in the right elbow and the right wrist. Butt of the club is a little bit more advanced coming into the golf ball. Hips are in a completely different position, pushing forward much more. I'm just going to, for the purpose of this next bit, sync these up. See how much more forward the hips are on the bottom centre. Handle location, very different to what we're seeing with your iron. And again, I'm just going to run your drill back. So what we see on the top right is the extreme version of what we want. We want to get as much of that in there as we can. And what we're seeing on the bottom centre is a nice comparison. So to change this picture we see here in the top centre, we have to introduce more of what we see on the top right. And that's what we're experiencing here towards the end of your session on the bottom centre footage. So much better move through the golf ball, much more improved impact position, in the ground more, handle leading more, hips forward more side bend to the right. So that's all conducive to hitting the ball further, higher, and swinging out more at the golf ball. So great work in that regard. What we then started to look at was realigning the shaft. The thing we saw with your old swing, this is you at the start of the session, was a really fast turn through the ball, and that turning and flexing pulls the arms out and presents the club very much out in front of the hands as you're delivering. That's your swing line. The horizontal swing plane figure that we looked at on Flight Scope shifted way left. You can see there a dramatic sort of move out to in. And a lot of that is to do with the rotational aspect of the downswing. So we talked about having too much turn too soon, and that was pulling the arms out. So the drill we introduced for this was, and this has still got to be done with a handle forward and the hips forward, but for you, the handle forward and the hips forward is to, not purely, but mainly to improve the quality of strike. This drill now is to get that strike and dispatch it down the fairway in a more consistent manner. So here we're now looking at controlling the curve on the ball a little bit more. So with the right foot drawn way back, what's going to happen now is it's going to encourage a little bit more turning in the backswing, but it's going to retard the rate at which you can unwind through the golf ball. And you can see when we do that, the club is in a completely different position at the delivery. The shaft doesn't steepen quite as much and starts to slot into that beautiful position at P6, allowing you to hit out at the golf ball for longer. Still there, you can see that old habit of wanting to pull across it, kicking in, which is why in the early shots doing this, you had a little bit of a stumble forward as you came through the golf ball. But there's a bowling drill doing the job it's designed to do for you at delivery. So good change there whilst doing the drill. At the end of your session with a driver, let's see if we turn out a bit as quick. So this is after doing some work with the bowling drill on the handle location. Massive difference in the way you deliver the golf club to the golf ball now. So the club coming slightly from the inside as opposed to dramatically from the outside. Swing plane shifted way to the left. Very low exit. Swing plane much more in line. Still that want to come through it late. You can see that sort of turning aspect kicking in post impact there now, really starting to turn hard, but we can work that out in subsequent sessions. So to summarise, what we're looking at doing is controlling, using the bowling drill to control the rate at which we can turn through the golf ball. So we need much less turn through the ball. And you can see we've got the stick in the ground here, some sort of 6-7 paces out in front of you. Ideally we want to hit every shot slightly to the right of that cane, because that's going to encourage us to shift the plane a little bit more to the right. So control the rate at which we unwind through the golf ball. And then the other thing we want to do then is introduce weight forward and handle forward at impact, which you can see, I mean, to be fair, the comparison between you, top centre and bottom centre, I'll just get rid of the other swings for you for a second, just to get those swings up a little bit bigger for you. Bear in mind, both these are actually hitting balls. I mean, to change a movement that you've had for so many years in the space of a day by that much is remarkable. It's easy to get lost sometimes in always expecting every shot to be perfect. You've got some habits in there that are very deeply ingrained. But the difference in those two positions is night and day, and it's been achieved by different foot position, feet out, different hip location that's set up, hips forward, and then the idea of leading with the handle and keeping that left knee a little bit more flexed. So just becoming familiar with what a good impact position is all about. So once you become more familiar with the swing that you see on the right, then it's really going to start performing for you. But credit where credit's due, to make that sort of change in what is a relatively short period of time. I know we spent the full day together, but ultimately, you know, we can change the picture very quickly doing the drills, as you saw. But to do it that much whilst actually hitting a shot is very, very good, and it bodes well for the future. So again, good luck with it. If you've got any questions, feel free to email me or give me a call. I look forward to meeting up with you on the 29th to do some further work and see how these most recent changes have started to bed in. And as I said, I think you're going to find that if these bed in the way they have here and continue to work in that manner, you're going to start to see other things changing in your swing. So you sort of almost get those for free, if you will, which is always nice because you work hard at your game, and it's always nice to get a little bit of something for nothing. So good luck with it, great changes, and look forward to speaking with you on the 29th. Well done.